Orientation, spiritual basis of regional cultures. The four P's of the solidarity process in an age of integrality. Preamble. In the prologue, we covered our distinctive paths, intertwined spiritually and culturally, whereas my overall orientation was to cross paths with a new discipline developed by Lessem and Schieffer, which is integral and dynamic, yet holistic in its nature, which truly aligned it with my spiritual purpose. As such, Amjad's call was to fight the biggest challenges facing Pakistan, that is, poverty elimination and reviving the spirit of Muakhat, a solidarity endowment. In doing so, he has successfully devised a localized financial solution which veritably came out of the pages of Islamic history and the prophetic tradition of Muakhat. This model of finance has been helping Pakistan in two ways. On the one hand, it is providing access to finance for the poorest of the poor of the society, and on the other hand, the resources provided to the poor have been conducive in helping the growth of local micro enterprises at a grassroots level, thereby generating a self sufficient economy for Akhuwat's community. Throughout the course of this book, I act as a narrator, along with, in a researcher's capacity, phenomenologically establishing a link between Pakistan and Akhuwat's implicit spiritual philosophy, conjointly in Dr. Saqib's words, and finally, communicating through transforms integral dynamics process. I understand it could prove challenging to read or perhaps at times understand the way this book is written. That is, by adopting various methods of inquiry and research processes, all stitched together to narrate a distinctive model of integral finance, and that too in light of our own personal and shared knowledge, insights, and experiences. If anything, the whole process is more subjectively intuitive and at times transcendental, as it occurred from a very deep state of knowing, which often gets lost in the process of translation. So, why subjective? The whole Akhwat phenomenon, as I perceived it, and as it spoke to me, besides being unique in its economic and financial nature, is also philosophical and spiritual in its approach, as conceived by its founder, Dr. Amjad Saqib. Yet, to my dissatisfaction, everywhere I looked, Akhwat was portrayed as yet another model of Islamic microfinance, and not as an integrated model of, for example, associative economics as per Rudolf Steiner's postulation, or indeed spiritual economics, as my Christian colleague Tony Bradley, based at Liverpool Hope University, who is also a fellow of Transform, maintains. And what is intuitive knowledge? According to Persian polymath Ibn Sina, also known as Avicenna, every act of cognition involves the illumination of the mind by the active intellect, or akal, which bestows upon the mind the form whose knowledge is the knowledge of the subject in question. The power of creative imagination, which is only perfected in the universal man, al-insan al-kamil, is able to create forms in the imaginal world and know these forms ontologically. And as maintained by Iranian Islamic philosopher Mullah Sadra, the very existence of these forms is the knowledge of them in the same way that, according to Persian philosopher and founder of the Iranian school of illuminationism, Shahabuddin Sohrawardi, God's knowledge of the world is the very reality of the world. In any case, the harmony and balance between intellect and intuition is perfected by Mullah Sadrat through his recourse to this intermediate domain and the intermediate faculty of knowing this domain. The faculty which is none other than the power of imagination, the khayul, residing in the soul and integrally related to the rational, intellectual, and intuitive faculties of the soul. And why metaphysical? The Tasawwuf or spiritual science is a branch of Islamic knowledge which focuses on the spiritual development of the Muslim, thereby disciplining the self to act in accordance with authenticated intentions by becoming an empty vessel, receiving direct divine guidance. Philosophically speaking, mysticism or gnosis or irfan belongs to the category of cognition, but not cognition in the normal sense. Not a common day to day consciousness of the external world, but knowledge of a world beyond the world of appearances. Not knowledge based on belief or reason, but one founded on direct, intuitive, instinctive perceptions. In other words, an inspired form of insight or an esoteric and personal knowledge flowing from within. The subject of the tasawwuf and its goals can be summarized as follows: salvation from ignorance and attainment of gnosis. As I immerse myself more deeply into Akhut's philosophy of muahat, solidarity, and as it was professed by Dr. Saqib, a Sufi by nature, I sense that Akhuwat has the potential for defining a new model of finance, which is so unique that there might not be a single definition for it. Yet it encompasses a universality of many disciplines and cultures in its approach. It is distinct as no one has dared to experiment with various intersections as Akhuwat has. For example, Akhuwat as an institution is fully integrated and conscious of various societal challenges faced by the Pakistani society, providing solutions and a societal framework to assess the social consequences of abject poverty by providing microloans. Yet it does not function or operate merely as a microfinance organization giving out microloans, but also educates the masses by raising their awareness of a reciprocal endowment. Akhuat's principles of volunteerism and borrowers becoming donors, thereby instilling a communal spirit of muahat, and Akhuat's principle of Qard-e-Hasan, that is, interest free loans. This is why I, acting as a narrator, have thus instinctively adopted the transcendental phenomenology method combined with participatory cooperative inquiry through my Sufi knowledge. And all this is supported by the transformational theory developed by Lessem and Schieffer as co founders of the Transform movement. For I strongly believe that this could only be effectuated through an integral language, which is transdisciplinary and transcultural, to a consequential transformational effect. Additionally, as I believe, Islam as a religion and Muslims as a community are evolving as the Muslim population is growing globally. Its many disciplines are becoming more adaptive of universality, especially for its Muslim population living in non Muslim countries. And therefore, for Akhuwat to have a global visibility and acknowledgement within Islamic finance sectors as a creative model of integral finance transforms multidisciplinary integral languages used to present Akhuwat's unique phenomenon. Cooperative inquiry is a method which is also known as collaborative inquiry, which was first proposed by John Heron in 1971 and later expanded with Peter Reason. The major idea of cooperative inquiry is to research with rather than on people. In the process of writing this book, I have therefore adopted this method rather than using a quantitative research methodology. This cooperative inquiry method of action research was adopted to assimilate qualitative knowledge to inquire into Akhuwat's distinctive model of finance. This includes endless discussions with my fellow research colleagues at Transform Globally, as well as Dr. Amjad Saqib, the founder and visionary behind the Akhuwat phenomenon, as well as Akhuwat's management team members. Furthermore, the transformational gene rhythm, as developed by the integral dynamics process by Lessem and Schieffer, provided me with an integrative theory which supports any such abstract yet interpretive method of research and narration. Hence, the inspiration for my Soulidarity hikmah gene emerged from this gene process, thereby birthing a new integral spiritual hikmah paradigm. The fourfold model of integral realities and worldviews and realms provides what they call their static or stabilizing elements. The dynamic is provided most especially and thirdly by what they term their integral rhythm, grounding to effect, combined with their integral rounds self to organization to societal development. Such a rhythm then underlies the recognition and release of a particular individual and collective community, organization, and society's genius. From an Islamic symbiotic viewpoint, the circle is the most important coded form for imagination of unity and integrity issue in constitution of the existing universe. The radii of the circle are radiation codes. The circumference of the circle is the reflection code, and the surface of the whole circle is the code of existence itself, or a specific level of existence. The circular rotation of the planetary system codifies the journey of unity towards the center. This brings us to the journey of our solidarity gene rhythm around the four worlds. For us, the resonance of journeying through stages of self and communal metamorphosis is all too familiar with the journey of the soul or pilgrimage. The circumambulation resonates with the physical circumambulation around the Kaaba, the ultimate spiritual journey for any Muslim. Circumambulating the Kaaba represents the idea of oneness. In regards to social life, it means not to leave unity and to try to maintain this unity. Its meaning regarding individual life contains deep truths. The sky has seven layers, man has seven souls. Each revolution around the Kaaba represents a phase, a stage. Man covers a phase and is elevated up to the seventh sky above the material realm. Besides, it means to rise from the lowest realm of the soul, which has seven realms, to the highest one. That is, from Nafs al Amara, a soul commanding to evil, to Nafs al Mutmainna, a tranquil soul, from the animal life to the spiritual life. It is a kind of worship taken from the order of the universe. The planets rotate around the sun, the electrons around the nucleus, the moth around the candle. Rotating around such a center means allegiance to love. This cyclical procession is called circumambulation or tawaf, the ritual of taking 7 rounds around the holy Kaaba. The two complementary ideas of circularity and centrality are involved in the establishment of a haram, a sanctuary where the physical, man, meets the spiritual, divine. For us, this represents the solidarity impulse which pulsates in the center, that is, a Kaaba or sanctuary, and the cyclical procession around it spirals down as the divine bounty, barakah, transcends in circularity. For us, any journey one takes to achieve God proximity and recompense through one's acts of kindness towards fellow beings sets this impulse in motion. It was thus important for me to draw on Akhuwat's implicit inner wisdom of hybridity. This book is therefore interwoven into 4 layers of our 4P process, which draws on Akhuwat's philosophy and processes in a unique way, thereby drawing a parallel with the 4 rounds of integral dynamics conceived in Lessem and Schieffer's integral gene orientation. So the first round is the philosophy of Akhuwat or solidarity. The second round are the principles, Akhuwat's 4 principles. The third round are Akhuwat's principles in practice. And the final 4th round is the integral Hikmah paradigm, which is Akhuwat's integral solidarity paradigm. It was thus important for me to draw on Akhuwat's implicit inner wisdom of hybridity. This book is therefore interwoven into 4 layers of our 4P process, which draws on Akhuwat's philosophy and processes in a unique way, thereby drawing a parallel with the 4 rounds of integral dynamics conceived in Lessem and Schieffer's integral gene orientation. So the first round is the philosophy of Akhuwat or solidarity. The second round are the principles, Akhuwat's 4 principles. The third round are Akhuwat's principles in practice. And the final 4th round is the integral Hikmah paradigm, which is Akhuwat's integral solidarity paradigm. How to read this book? For Khalil Gibran, a Lebanese writer, poet, and mystic, thought is a state of being rather than a state of mind. According to Gibran, the appearance of things changes according to the emotions, and thus we see magic and beauty in them, while the magic and beauty are really in ourselves. And thus we expect our readers to read this book actioning through our solidarity impulse and by employing their heart dimension along with their akal and intellect, the rational faculty of the soul or mind. And whilst doing that, imagine a new discipline of solidarity through reciprocity, compassion, and benevolence. For me, particularly, owing to my philosophical nature, transcending the nature and philosophy of a phenomenon is of utmost importance as its ontological progression indicator. In Amjad's words, Akhuwat is a social movement, notwithstanding the fact it has borrowed the initial microlending concept from the all pervading microfinance movement, which gained global awareness through Bangladeshi social business guru Muhammad Yunus and his Grameen Bank initiative. But where Akhuwat parts ways with the much lauded microfinance movement is by transcending the boundaries set by the formal microfinance industry, by turning the whole movement around in favor of people who not only needed a loan but engage in social ownership and with reciprocal endowment too, and by unequivocally advocating the spirit of muahat, solidarity, and association with the lesser able fellow community members, that is, the poorest of the poor. In this respect, Akhuwat vends itself as a family of Akhuwateers, all working towards bettering the society and displaying a sense of solidarity with each other. For that purpose alone, as altruistic as it might sound to many of our readers, my intention is to make visible the invisible impulse, that which, if presumed with the same intention of reciprocity and ihsan, benevolence, could help in finding a solution. How not to read this book? As reiterated above, Akhwat is commonly known and perceived as the largest interest-free microfinance organization inside and outside of Pakistan, whereby I am presenting Akhwat as a futuristic alchemist for co-creating a solidarity hikmah, wisdom, through a transcendental contemplation of its four eyes, Iman, Ikhlas, Ihsan, and Akhwa, thereby self-sufficiently generating a model of integral finance. This will serve, moreover, as our ongoing collective integral pursuit to catalyze a model of integral finance and economics through our centers of integral finance and economics around the world. What this book does not propose is to outline Nakhut as a microfinance organization in comparison to other such organizations in Pakistan or in its neighboring countries. While Akhuwat aims to rid Pakistan of poverty, just as Muhammad Yunus wished to do with Grameen Bank, Akhuwat parts ways with the Grameen model in its absolute immersion in the Islamic model of Qard-e-Hasan, benevolent loan, that is, of ridding the society of an imposed scarcity of resources amongst abundance of wealth possessed by the privileged class of the society. Akhwat, brotherhood, sets in motion its collective impulse of societal reciprocity by emphasizing its four stages of self and societal development through its four I orientation.